Hey guys, welcome back to another video where we are going to look at how to add a custom app specific action to Modern Work Center. Oftentimes, business application owners want to have a customized app specific dashboard created for their end users where they can include custom action menu to take quick actions right from the dashboard without having to open a task form or process view to take action. Traditionally, in most process-centric and case management products, including such functionality would have incurred a lot of development work, as practically one of the consultants or partners would have to write the whole functionality from scratch. AgilePoint NX provides a seamless solution for this problem through easy configuration options. The AgilePoint NX dashboard has a built-in extension mechanism where you can include custom task and process level actions of your own and even alter behavior of existing actions or even hide them completely. This feature works on both card view and grid view. In fact, it also works in inline forms, which is a new feature we recently released. Let's look at this feature in action. So I'm in my demo environment right now. I'm going to go to settings, work center settings. You'll see a new tab added over here called custom action settings. So let's click on it. Now, in terms of custom actions, there's one thing you might want to understand first is that custom actions can be added at two levels. It can be added at a task or a process specific level that is called context menu option, which acts on the individual task or process, or you can add a bulk option as well. So if you select multiple of these items in task or processes, a global bar lights up over here. So you can create bulk actions as well. So with that understanding, I'm going to go back to the custom action editor. Now over here, you can add your UI and behavior for this particular custom action under shared resources. So there are three kind of files which you can add: an HTML file, a JavaScript file, or a CSS file. Adding a file is quite easy. You can just click on add button over here. Clicking on add button would open the editor where you can type HTML, JavaScript, or CSS, or you can import the file from one environment to another. Or you can click on the plus button over here and it lets you do the same thing. Now in my case, I have already created an HTML file. As you can see, there's an HTML editor with a lot of editing options available. Also, there is an export option if I wanted to move it from one environment to another. I can always maximize the real estate. So I can say maximize my design area over here. I can even maximize this area to reduce the preview pane over here and maximize my code editing area. I can minimize it back as well. So I have an HTML file that is not a mandatory component because your custom action might just be something which is one click of that action menu you want to call a JavaScript. So JavaScript would be the bare minimum thing which would be required. UI is optional, but in case you need a UI, you can add an HTML over here. I have a JavaScript function written over here, and there has to be one entry method. So my entry method is called view expense report in this case. And optionally, I can also add a CSS file over here. So you can see there is a CSS file which is added. And again, all of these can be either imported from one environment to another, or it can be inline edited over here as well. So I'm going to close these tabs and we are going to start adding a custom action. So let's minimize the shared resources. Under custom actions, again, I can either import it from one environment to another, or I can click on add, give it a name. So I'm going to call it view expense report. I can assign it an icon. I can choose from one of the available icons out of the box. I'm going to select the graph icon for now. Next, I'm going to define the scope. So I can say this applies to a task or a process. I'm going to set the first action applies to task level. What kind of a menu type is it? It is either context menu action or bulk action. So I'm going to select context menu action. I want it to work on only one task for now. I can select my JavaScript file, which is my entry point. It is all coming from these shared resources folder, whatever files I have added. I can add multiple CSS. I'm going to select the one I want. And optionally, I can add an HTML file as well. It tells you on the tooltip that the UX is not, or dialog is not required. but in my case, I'm going to have one. So I'm going to select this over here. And then it asks me which JavaScript method should I call as an entry method when I click the context menu option. So I'm going to call it view expense report, which is the same name as what was there in my JavaScript file. I can optionally also add a validation method in my JavaScript and call those for the validation part. I'm going to skip it for now. Next, I can define rules that under what conditions this context action should appear. So I'm going to say, and my first rule, I'm going to say where application name equal to expense report. I'm going to make it a more complex rule, and the current logged in user, there's a whole lot of filters available based on activity display name, internal name, app name, current users group, role, process initiator, process model. So I can use any one of them in my condition. I'm going to say current users group is expense report approvers, which happens to be a group which I already have in my environment. I can say status is equal to published, and I can also define that where in my context menu would this option appear, at what index level. So I'm going to select it should appear at the top at index level 1. Now I can click on save. Now at any point of time I can always preview how it is going to look. So it is going to tell me that okay, you can click on this button and preview it. If I go to individual files, I can do the same over here as well. So for example, if I click on this reassign one and say play it right over here, it says, do you want to preview it in pane, which is this one, or preview it as a pop-up or a flyout? I'm going to say preview it in pane. I can apply a CSS over here, and you can see that my dialog is rendering. I can always click on this button to invoke my work center as well. So now my custom action is published out. So I'm going to go back to work center. Now, if you remember, I added it for the application called expense report. So if I go to any other application over here, that option is not showing up. The view expense report is not available in my context menu. But if I go to the ones which belong to expense report, I see the custom action showing up, view expense report. When I click on it, because I added some kind of a UI behavior for it, you can see that the dialog pops up over here in this case. This is what I created using that HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Similarly, the same action is available on grid view. So if I go to grid view over here and on the manager review task, you see the view expense report option is available right over here. And if I go back to the card view and click on the task itself, this action is also available on the inline form. So that was the first custom action. Now similarly, I have created few more sample custom actions, which you can see over here in my settings dialog. I have one for adding quick comments. This is a bulk action to show you a scenario how bulk actions would work. And then few more custom actions are available over here. I'm going to show you a couple of samples over here. So what I have done is for my know your customer application, what I have done is I have created a bulk action. So if you look at the setting, it tells me this should only be available if your application name equal to know your customer and you belong to a particular customer group. So if I select one or two of these belonging to the same application, there is a new custom action showing up over here. But if I select the third one, which is from a different application, that goes away because I said that it should be only available for these two tasks. So I'm going to unselect this one and I'm going to say add a bulk comment. This please approve this customer with high priority. And I click add comment. What it is doing over here is if I open the form of these individual tasks and scroll down, you see my comment has been added over here in both the tasks without me having to open the form itself previously. So that's a quick action which I added to act at a bulk level. I'm going to unselect these ones. So that was the second kind of a use case it could address. The third kind of a use case is I wanted to create a custom reassign task menu option over here with my own UI. And I click on reassign, and this task would get reassigned to a different user. If I refresh my task list, this should be gone in my task list. Similarly, I have a couple of more custom actions. This is something I covered in one of my previous blog posts as well. I'm going to initiate a new app over here. So I attached an Excel file. It took the data out of that Excel file and pre-filled my form fields over here. And the file has been uploaded to SharePoint. And I'm going to click submit in this case. It kicks off a new process instance. So if I go back to my tasks, there is a new task waiting for me over here. But if I click on this context menu option, you'll see that there are a few social threads or team specific threads which have been spawned up over here. So if I click on view conversation, for that particular process instance, it created a Yammer thread where I can communicate or collaborate with my team members over here. And this option is showing you the collaboration experience as a pop-up. If I wanted to go directly to Yammer, I can click on view conversation thread. So that's a second sample. And it takes me to the Yammer thread itself. Or I could even use it in Microsoft Teams. So as part of the process, I spin up a Microsoft Teams channel. You can click on view web app instead, and you can see the same thing works, of course, on the desktop app as well. And you can see a new Microsoft Team channel has been spinned up. So these are some of the use cases you can handle by using the extension framework available within Modern Work Center to create your own custom actions. Thanks a lot for your time.